Oh, hello there. It's been a while. It's been a while, but I've been slowly collecting more records over the meantime. So it's just sort of an update video on all of the stuff that I've been sort of collecting and listening to for the past little bit. Um, Some of it's been really, really good, and it's helped to, I don't know, in my playing, has helped me to develop more of a sort of homogenized sound from learning to like play some of these things, which is cool. And others are just merely for fun. So to start off with, we'll do a vinyl update, and then we'll get into the CDs. So first off, I got Bad Bunny's Debí tirar más fotos. I apologize, my Spanish is not very good. But I got this. I got to see his Super Bowl show the day after, or a couple days afterwards, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so I went and I made a note to pick this up if I saw it, which I did, and so that was really great. I really liked the first half, the first side of the record, and I really liked the last side of the record, so side four. Those were my favorites, but in between there, I did also enjoy Weltita, featuring, I think her name is Julie, I could be wrong. And yeah, the fourth side with Lo que le pasó a Hawaii, EOO, DTMF, and La Mundanza was really good. Some of those might not have been actual Spanish pronunciations of the letters, but that's just where my brain is right now. So anyways, this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and that was a lot of fun to pick up. Next up, I got Erykah Badu's But You Can't Use My Phone. A lot of the vinyl that I picked up is stuff that I really like, either enjoy listening to and is just for like fun to listen to. And so this falls sort of under that category. This is just a purely enjoyable record. I really thought this was a cool idea back in 2016. When she released it. It's just all songs about your phone, just all songs about phones, and it's really fantastic. I really enjoy the third song, Cellular Device, which is a cover of Hotline Bling, but it includes, is that the one, or is it the reprise? I can't remember. It's either that one or the reprise, but she has a Drake impersonator come on to rap, and it's actually really fun. It's pretty funny, like how close this guy sounds to Drake. He's like the Jay Farrow of like rap impersonations. It's pretty great. But yeah, this is such a fun project. Really cool thing. Very happy to have it because it's just fun, to be quite honest with you. I also got Cardi B's Am I the Drama? This is the blue album version, the blue vinyl version. I got to hear this on streaming, and I really liked it. I enjoyed what I was hearing, and there's no track listing on here. Cool. I was gonna be like, here's the tracks that I like off of it, but yeah, there is no track listing on here, which is fine. But yes, I liked a bunch of the sides that were off of here. I know it starts off with, is it Dead? Is that the name of the first song? That song stands out in my mind as like, just when you're like mad and you're just like, screw everything. Fantastic song to listen to. But yeah, the rest of this project is really good. I really enjoy the song that Selena Gomez is on here. And, oh God, it'll take me a moment to think about it, but some good stuff on here that I really enjoyed. Next up, we have Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love. One of the things I've been trying to do is play a little less sort of strictly like country music. And one of the sites that I came up with kind of, to me, has what I've decided is like a Childish Gambino kind of folk vibe to it, which wouldn't be too far out of place from some of the sides that are on Awaken My Love. And so that is that. Obviously, you know, the hits are always going to be big things, but in terms of like what I was working towards, like Have Some Love would definitely be a big sort of influence point for that. California, and maybe Baby Boy. Just trying to think. It's either Baby Boy or Stand Tall. It's one of the two of those. But those would be the closer sort of idea to what I was sort of working towards at that point in time. I don't have to go back and like actually record it now. But yeah, this was a fantastic project. I really enjoyed it when it came out. I like that he went from like rap into, I guess, like spacey, futuristic sort of R&B. I don't have words to describe it properly, but that's the vibe that I'm getting off of it. What I like is that this and You Can't Use My Phone both have that kind of like spacey sort of like futuristic R&B vibe to them, and so that's really good, while still retaining a lot of like older sort of styles to them. So yeah, so this is a one that I really enjoyed. This, not gonna lie, might be my favorite pickup of the past little bit. This is the legendary Son House, Father of the Folk Blues. This is like the record as far as I'm concerned. This is Son House after he's been rediscovered in the 60s, sitting down and re-recording some of his original songs that he recorded way back in the 1930s, in a very sort of like clear style. In between his original recordings, and then he moved from Mississippi up to New York State, and he was working for a railroad. And hilariously, on this vinyl record, they actually talk about this, about how like he stopped playing guitar in 1948 because the post-World War II generation didn't want to hear the old blues anymore. They wanted to hear electrified blues, and so he said, "To hell with it," and he quit. And then he just quit playing, and he didn't pick up, a guitar again until sometime in the 60s when he was rediscovered. It was a bit of like a trek to like find him. People went down to Mississippi, asked around, and were directed back up north. And so when they did find him, they sat him down and they were like, "We want you to re-record these songs." And it took him a while to sort of remember how to play and to sing in the way that he used to. And so once he locked back into that groove, he cut this record. This is fantastic if you want to get into like the White Stripes and starting to play like Jack White. This is a really good sort of touchstone for that, because of just like, especially the slide guitar stuff that Jack White does with the White Stripes. This is like a huge touchstone for that. So yeah, so this is a fantastic record just in that sense, but also like this music is great. And Son House proves multiple times on it that all you really need is like a good voice, because there's a couple songs where he is just clapping as his accompaniment. So Genre of Relator and Grinning in Your Face, two just clapping songs. Grinning in Your Face has like a little bit of like an off rhythm to the beginning of the clapping part of it, which is fantastic as well. Really just amazing record. So this was a really cool find for me. Very happy about that. And that, what I would say is like Son House and listening to Son House has also helped me to move forward, I guess, in my guitar playing, if you will, and even just like my songwriting in general. So that's been really good. Next up, we have Rihanna's Good Girl Gone Bad. I wanted to get a Rihanna album, and I was hoping to get Anti, but I could never find it when I was out, and that is totally fine. So I got this one because it has a bunch of my favorite songs by her on it, like Umbrella, Don't Stop the Music, Hate That I Love You, and I was gonna say Rehab, but also Good Girl Gone Bad. These are all fantastic songs, so I would totally check this out if you haven't. But yeah, that was a really fun pickup, and so I was happy with that. I also got Rodriguez's Cold Fact. I had listened to this maybe a couple times on streaming at some point in my life. I forgot that he is kind of like, in some way, like Detroit's answer to like Bob Dylan and Lou Reed is what I'm getting out of this. He's sort of like the very like lo-fi version of those two guys, like somewhere in between the noise rock of the Velvet Underground and the lyrical poetry of like folky Bob Dylan is Rodriguez, and it's awesome. I love it. Most of these songs clock in at just like slightly over 2 minutes, maybe 2.5, but each one of them is like fantastic. So like, if you're into that kind of like folk rock / like streetwise kind of like music, music scene, even just like stuff from like the late '60s, early '70s, or your early '60s to some extent. This is a pretty good album to get into that with. There's a documentary about this somewhere. I want to say I don't remember. I've never seen it, but I've heard people talk about having seen it, and that was sort of my introduction to finding Rodriguez and then listening to his music. But yeah, very happy to have this. It's pretty great. And then finally, for rounding out our vinyl selection, we got SZA's Control. This is a really great album. I enjoy it from front to back. It's fantastic. One of my favorite things is when I was on one of my excursions driving out west, I ran into Drew Barrymore, not the actual Drew Barrymore, the song Drew Barrymore on a late night radio station, and it was like such a cool moment to have that playing in the background because it was like freezing cold outside. It was like -20, and so I was like, yeah, is it warm enough in here for me? We'll find out. But yeah, this was great. I really enjoyed listening to it again. I also really enjoy having this with this because these two covers are really interesting as like bookends of the vinyls that I got, because alphabetically Bad Bunny is first and SZA is last in that arrangement. So that was kind of also like a fun little thing for me to be like, oh, interesting. But yeah, this is a great album. Stuff that I really love off of it. Supermodel, love galore. Obviously Drew Barrymore, I already said that. I liked 20 something. Doves in the Wind is pretty good. And then in the middle, I really enjoyed Wavy, the interlude. So there you go. That's what I got for vinyl. As I said, like vinyl for me is mostly becoming a format where it's like stuff that I just want to sit down and listen to, as opposed to stuff that I'm gonna like maybe spend time trying to like study. Except for like a few sort of occasions, like the Sun House record. But we also have a bunch of CDs, which are stuff that I specifically got to sort of listen to not only because I enjoy it, but also because it would be good to like sort of study. And so first up, we got Audioslave's Out of Exile. This is my favorite Audioslave project. I listened to this like nonstop when I was in Japan the first time through, and it was really fun to be listening to like Out of Exile in like Hiroshima and going to like Miyajima Island and to Mount Misen and all that stuff, because like if you're simply saying those names out loud, they could be like when I first came to this island that I called by my own name. So it was like this fun sort of like play on words that was happening. But this is a fantastic album just in its own right. Just the heaviness of this album is so great. I love it. Your Time Has Come, fantastic song. Be Yourself, Doesn't Remind Me is also hilarious because I was listening to it a lot while wandering around Tokyo. And just being sort of lost once you get off the main sort of drags of Tokyo and into sort of the back streets and stuff. It can get a little confusing when you're there, so that was really great. It's also really fun because I've just started to collect sort of like gospel music, if you will, so that's pretty great. But yeah, really every song on here is a standout. Halo is really, really good. That's not the name of it, but yeah, that song is fantastic. Number 10, I also really like. So that was the first step. That's Audioslave. I also learned how to play. I learned how to do sort of like technical stuff from an interview with Tom Morello that I remember reading at one point. So like learning how to do like the spider walk and stuff, and that's also helped me to get somewhat better at doing sort of like more like lead work or like riff work and stuff like that. So that's another reason why I enjoy Audioslave. Next up, we have the band's greatest hits. So last time I talked to you, or one of the last times I talked to you, I had the band's, I want to say like 11 side listing. This is the one that I wanted to get. This is the 18 track listing. And it's fantastic. Covers their entire career, includes includes obviously at least 7 more songs than the older version of their Greatest Hits. But between this version and the other version, there are still, I think it's like 2 or 3 different songs between the 2 track listings, which is also fantastic in and of itself. But yeah, like if you like country funk, then like this is gonna be right up your alley. So yeah, obviously The Wait, fantastic song. The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, timeless. King Harvest Has Surely Come is one of my favorites. The Shape I'm In. What else? When I Paint My Masterpiece, awesome version of that song. Ain't Got No Home is also really fantastic because Levon's like playing around with like his voice and stuff like that, and the effects that they use on it are really really fun. But yeah, this is a fantastic album. So that's the version that I wanted to get, and so I have now sent the older version back to where it belongs at home, and that's what I've got. Next up is Big Stars. This is a like a deluxe version, or like a budget version, I guess. I guess budget's not the right word, but it's both. It's their 2 first albums on the same CD, which is actually fantastic. This is how I was first introduced to these guys. Was having #1 record in Radio City on the same album. Hilarious that they called their first album #1 album. But you know, there you go. Alex Chilton, fantastic. Chris Bell, amazing. What can I tell you? They're really good. Amazing songwriters, amazing singers and everything. First album is amazing. In the Street, obviously, if you've seen, what the hell is that show? Oh, that's gonna bug me. Wilmer Valderrama was in it. I know that's the guy that I remember that was in it, but it was set in Wisconsin. Was it That 70s Show? It might have been. Anyways, they used In the Street as the title song of the show. Really fantastic. Other stuff that I love off of here, Feel is really good. 13 is fantastic. When My Baby's Beside Me is really good. My Life Is Right. Just all of this is fantastic. But really, the song the album that I really love is Radio City. The second album, which unfortunately I think Chris Bell is not on, and so it's mostly just Alex Chilton being kind of like emo and whiny throughout the entire thing. And you're like, okay, man. But like, it's good. Like, Oh My Soul is a fantastic like barn burner that opens things up. Life is White, Way Out West. What's Going On is amazing. September Girls and I'm in Love with a Girl, which I want to say I'm in Love with a Girl, that was in, I think, Adventureland, which also heavily featured a ton of like Velvet Underground and Lou Reed stuff, and is in itself a pretty awesome movie. But yeah, this was my introduction to Big Star. This is my favorite album by them because yeah, it's just 2 albums smashed onto 1 CD, and you can't beat the value that you get out of that. And yeah, these guys are like, if you've literally never heard of Big Star before, they're like the Rolling Stones or the Velvet Underground, but of Memphis. And so yeah, these guys are great. So that's that. Next up, I got The Byrds, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. This is the like bonus song version. This was my, again, introduction to this album. I really enjoy the like sort of like country rock that they're doing. Very like almost like traditional country rock at some points in time. Graham Parsons, I believe, joined the band, and that's how they ended up getting further into this sort of country sound and away from what they had sort of been doing as this folk rock kind of sound. And this is perfect bookend, if you will, or pairing with the Flying Burrito Brothers disc that I got, because I now have 2 versions of Lazy Days on it, which is my favorite song off of here, but it's the bonus track. And then so yeah, stuff that's really great. Any of the like Basement Tapes covers, You Ain't Going Nowhere is really good. Um, Nothing Was Delivered is also fantastic. But then when you get into the other stuff that they did, like I Am a Pilgrim, The Christian Life, You Don't Miss Your Water, You're Still on My Mind, Pretty Boy Floyd, Hickory Wind, 100 Years From Now, Blue Canadian Rockies, and Life in Prison, it's just all fantastic. And the way that they've presented them is really pleasing. Because again, some of them have very like traditional sort of sound to them, and some of them have this like rocked up sort of thing. And so yeah, it's really great. And then obviously they have a bunch of bonus tracks on it that have different takes of what they did previously, but also just some extra stuff like You Got a Reputation, fantastic. Lazy Days, as I said, is fantastic as well. So that's a sort of a touchstone album, if you will. Next up, I got Mac DeMarco's 2. And you're gonna be like, why didn't you get any of the other stuff that he's done? And it's not because I don't enjoy it, it's because this was my introduction to Mac DeMarco, and this is my favorite project of his. Stuff that I really like in it, Cooking Up Something Good, Dreaming, Freaking Out the Neighborhood is also fantastic, Robson Girl's great, Bowie Zaw is great, and Still Together is actually one of my favorite sort of like album closers. Yeah, just really good stuff. Very happy to have gotten this. I like Mac's sort of like, I don't know, like laid back sort of vibe. I like that he also he does write and record almost all these things by himself. I think that's really interesting. Multi-instrumentalists are fascinating to me. But like this was my introduction to him. This remains my favorite thing that he's done, and so I was very happy to have gotten that. So yeah. Next up, we have some more Bob Dylan, because yeah, I think I've already got into this. But yes, Bob Dylan, another side of Bob Dylan. This is a fantastic album for me. Maybe other people don't like it, but I feel like this is kind of like the Sticky Fingers of that period for him. That period in his recording career where it's like, I think it's really fantastic, but it kind of gets maybe overlooked because it's not a sort of standout as like his earlier albums, Times They Are Changing or Free Willin', or his like stuff that came right after this in Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61, and then obviously Blonde on Blonde, and then the run through everything up to, what is it, John Wesley Harding, Nashville Skyline, the Basement Tapes wedged in between there, but released later on. All of that's fantastic. So yeah, this is my favorite of that because it's kind of overlooked of his like folk phase. I should say his pre-electrified phase. This is one of my favorites because yeah, it's him. He's getting like weird, like his lyricism is getting a little looser. It's becoming a little more of that sort of like stream of consciousness, just non-stop, you know, words tumbling over one another. Sometimes it's you know, maybe starting to lose meaning, but it's still holding meaning at the same time. I really like that about it. It's also got some very like still pulled together like folk songs, and it's just really nudging you towards the idea that like this guy's gonna go electric because it's becoming a little more rock in its output. And so yeah, like all I really want to do, I love his like falsettos on that. Black Crow Blues is amazing. You know, and switching it up to now include like a piano and stuff like that, and be like, yeah, we're getting towards like rock and roll again. Just all these little hints. Spanish Harlem Incident, amazing. Chimes of Freedom is one of the ones that's like very still like part of the folk phase. But then so is like It Ain't Me Babe at the very end. But what do we got? I Shall Be Free, number 10 is another one of those, I want to say like sort of like rambling, almost like talking blues kind of songs. Motorcycle Nightmare also kind of falls into that category. One of my favorite tracks of all time of Dylan's is My Back Pages, and that is included on here. I Don't Believe You is really great because just the title of that song becomes part of his response to that heckler in Manchester. But yeah, Ballad in Plain D is also great. Just really everything about this album, I love it. And so if you like Dylan and maybe aren't quite sure where to start, maybe try that out and see how you feel, or don't try that out and go to more of like the traditional sort of folk stuff just before it, or the more rock and roll sides that comes after it, and then work your way back to that one and see how you feel. But for me, I love it because it's got that sort of transitional energy to it, and it really is sort of like pointing at like I'm leaving this sound behind and I'm going to be doing other stuff. So I really enjoy that. Next up, we have Time Out of Mind. This is, I want to say, what the first of what people call as his like modern trilogy, which ends with Modern Times, I think, and then Love and Theft comes in the middle. But yeah, this is fantastic. After I moved to Montreal, I reheard Not Dark Yet. Just randomly came up on like Spotify on Shuffle, and I was like, oh yeah, I really need to go back and check out this album. And so yeah, this is one that I was super happy to get. Highlands is really good on here. I was gonna say Dirt Road Blues is one that to me is pretty awesome. Trying to Get to Heaven Till I Fell in Love with You. These all stand out to me as songs that I really like. And yeah, just really cool. Especially as that sort of like I don't know, enlivening of, I guess, his career that like critically people always talk about. But yeah, for me, that's one I was really happy to find. Next up, we have Geese's Getting Killed. I was introduced to these guys by NPR, and then I watched a couple of their late night shows, SNLs. That was it. Yeah, they were on SNL. So I watched a couple of their performances on that, and I went out and I got it. And the only thing that I have to say about this is that it's annoying that there is no track listing on this, but that's like a minor complaint. Everything about this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I've listened to it multiple times, and yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. This also helped to help me to go back to some of the other stuff that I had been working on and start to try to like change how it sounded. And so that was really like fun to listen to this as like I don't know, you get what, like the Velvet Underground are kind of like the epitome of like underground New York rock in like the 60s and 70s, and then you get to, I guess you have like the punk sound of like maybe New York Dolls, but even then it's like maybe not, because they're kind of like a punky sort of like Rolling Stones vibe. And then it's like, I don't know, I guess the next big pinpoint would be what, the Strokes. And then so Geese are just, to me, the continuation of that idea of like super streetwise, like just cool sounding, tough sounding rock and roll that's made by like kind of a somewhat underground but super well known band from New York. That's, to me, is the whole vibe of that. So Geese, fantastic, you should check it out. And now we delve into one of my other musical fascinations of just my entire life, and that is my fascination with Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was one of the guys, so like I remember I bought Elephant when I turned, how old was I in 2003? I'll have to think about it. But yeah, so like I remember buying Elephant when it came out, and then I was like, oh, I really love the way that like Jack's guitar sounds. And then I started to get into more like guitar oriented stuff, so like Led Zeppelin, and everything else. And Jimi Hendrix is obviously another person that you're going to put in there as a guitar virtuoso hero. And so I started to become slightly obsessed with Jimi Hendrix. I've listened to a ton of his live work, specifically Woodstock and live at the Fillmore East, which is going to come up in a moment. Yeah, like just sort of fell in love with the idea of what he was doing. Now I sort of prefer the Titan sort of studio aspect of Hendrix as opposed to that like really like sometimes rambling, sometimes overdone looseness of his live shows. But you know, this guy is amazing. I just think it's really great. Anyways, this is the. I want to say this is like the Jimi Hendrix. It's a special edition, potentially the family edition. I could be wrong, but it has a DVD included with it. It also has a really cool booklet inside of it that just sort of talks about the making of the album and includes lyrics and stuff like that. So it's a retrospective sort of presentation of it. I just really like the packaging, first of all. And then, yeah, the DVD aspect is kind of cool. So I'm going to go through and like watch that at some point in time. But yeah, the first album, Are You Experienced? Amazing, fantastic. Love this thing to death. I remember learning how to try to play. Learning how to try to play Purple Haze because just that riff in and of itself is like, that is like riff rock, right? That is like the riff rock riff, if you will. And so that's where I started with things. Foxy Lady is another one that I remember trying to learn how to play. Maybe not having any success with, but you know, whatever. But yeah, there's so much stuff on here that's fantastic. Manic Depression, great. Hey Joe, great. Lover Confusion, good stuff. May This Be Love is like, I guess, okay. I Don't Live Today, wildly amazing. The fact that it like fades out and he's just Jimmy in the background like, oh man, there ain't no life nowhere. That's fantastic. At the end of it, love that. Wind Cries Mary, fantastic. Fire, Third Stone from the Sun, Foxy Lady, amazing. Are You Experienced, really good. Stone Free. The version on here is pretty tame. I prefer a different version of it. We'll get into that. But yeah, what else we got? Highway Child, Can You See Me, Remember, Red House, all this stuff was fantastic. And I just really, really liked, as I said, like I used to really like the live versions of stuff that he did, and now I've become somebody who's more like, no, I need to hear the studio stuff. So yeah, from there we get into the third studio album that he put out and the last of the Jimi Hendrix Experience studio stuff that they put out, with Electric Ladyland. That is, so this is the same version as the other ones, the I think Family Legacy version or something. I could be wrong about the name, but it's got the DVD, it's got the little booklet, which is cool. This is my favorite Jimi Hendrix project. I just think it's really great, and how it like spans all these different kind of like music genres, if you will. Like he goes from, you know, very hard blues of, you know, Voodoo Child to, you know, Crosstown Traffic is very like Britpop, and then you get this like spaced out blues at the very end with Voodoo Child Slight Return. Amazing. I love this stuff. And then in between you get all of the things that make up, you know, Rainy Day Dream Away through Still Raining, Still Dreaming, and it's just fantastic to listen to. So yeah, I really enjoy it. But yeah, this is, as I said, my favorite of his experience work, and probably my favorite of his projects overall. And so a close second would be like Band of Gypsies. But yeah, I just like the transition that he's moving into becoming more, I guess, solidified as not just like the greatest guitarist, but also as like a guy who's now starting to settle into actually singing on all of these things, and then moving from this sort of like hard bluesy and like rock sound into a more free sort of funky R&B kind of vibe, which is really great. So everything on here, as I said, is fantastic. And Time the Gods Made Love. Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland? Crosstown Traffic is one of my faves. Voodoo Child, Little Miss Strange, Long Hot Summer Night, Come On Let the Good Times Roll, Gypsy Eyes, Burning of the Midnight Lamp, Rainy Day Dream Away, 1983, A Merman I Should Turn to Be, Moon, Turn the Tides, Gently, Gently Away, Still Raining, Still Dreaming, House Burning Down, All Along the Watchtower, and Voodoo Child's Slight Return. There are a few moments in music, especially from this time period, that I love as much as the transition from All Along the Watchtower into Voodoo Child's Slight Return. I guess another one would be on Led Zeppelin 2, taking Heartbreaker and putting it and moving it into Live and Love and Made. Just fantastic stuff. So yeah, the way that these all fit together is great. But yeah, big fan of that album. Next up, I got, so this is actually just Hendrix. This is the actual full live shows that will become the Band of Gypsys album. And I actually prefer this to the album version because I actually like the full versions. And I really like getting to hear the difference between the two shows in the track listing. So it's actually very cool to sit down and just listen to for that aspect. And also just all the other stuff that they included in here on those shows. So yeah, they did 2 different versions of Machine Gun live because they wanted to make sure that that was right. But then there's stuff like Stone Free on here is amazing, as just like the looseness of it from when it was first introduced way back in Are You Experienced to the Band of Gypsys version that's just like loose and letting everything hang out. This is by far the superior version and my favorite version. Power of Soul's great, Hear My Train a Comin', Isabella, Machine Gun, Voodoo Child's Slight Return, and We Gotta Live Together. Disc 1 is fantastic. As it transitions into Disc 2, the shows, if I remember correctly, he played 2 shows. One was on December 31st, and then the other one is on January 1st. So it transitions into the new year, and so Disc 2 starts with Old Lang Syne, which is the transition point into the new year, which is kind of funny. And then, or maybe he played one show early on in the day, and then he played another show the next day. I can't remember the exact timing. I would have to read the booklet, which I could do by just opening this up, but here we are. So yeah, Old Lang Syne's really great. This like that, hearing that as like a transition point. Who Knows? Changes is amazing. I love the version on here. Machine Gun again, Stepping Stone, Stop, Earth Blues, Burning Desire, and Wild Thing. I really enjoy Wild Thing as the album closer. Just the amounts of like feedback that are going through his guitar and the performance are amazing. And yeah, this is one time where I actually prefer the live version to the album version, and that's because Band of Gypsys, the album, is just this condensed and then cut down to make an album's worth of material. And so yeah, that's fantastic. So I'm very happy to have acquired all of those. I may get Axis Bolt of Love, but I'm not as huge a fan of that project as I am the other two. So we'll come back to that and we'll see. Next up, I got some blues sort of compilations, if you will. So first off, I got Son House, Delta Blues. This was really cool in comparison to the other one because this is the like mostly the original recordings from the 1930s that he did. And so it has like My Black Mama parts 1 and 2 and Preaching the Blues parts 1 and 2, which are originally the earliest 4 recordings that people ever had or knew about from him, or were able to access regularly. They knew that there were the recordings, they just didn't know where they were. So this also includes things like Dry Spell Blues parts 1 and 2, Levy Camp Blues, what else was there? I want to say County Farm Blues, and I can't remember what the other one was called. Depot Blues, maybe? Anyways, they change between titles and stuff like that, but these are the originals, and it's really cool to hear the difference for me as a person who's learning how to play, because like you get to see the sense of like what he was like starting very early on in his career, and then you get to see what he sounded like as, you know, a mature adult who relearned his material and was representing it to the world. So yes, that was really cool. Son House is also just fascinating because he is old enough to have known guys like Charlie Patton and what is it? He knew Charlie Patton. He also knew Robert Johnson, and you know he knew like a bunch of other people who were famous from the area, like Willie Brown and everybody. And that's because he was just in the right place at the right time to do that. And then, of course, he, along with Skip James, leave recording behind. They leave Mississippi behind. They move up to the northern states as part of sort of the migration of African Americans out of the South. They completely, you know, forget about playing music and just move into, you know, finding work, finding stable work, hopefully, and continuing on their lives as if this was just a thing from the past, until these like random folk junkies show up at their doors to be like, hey, we need you to re-record this stuff for posterity. And then they bring out things like Father the Folk Blues and what's the Skip James Today in the mid 60s, and help to, you know, preserve and revitalize people's interest in that genre and that era of making music, of, you know, pre-electrified blues, and so that's really, really kind of cool. But yeah, that's a really fantastic find, and it's really fun to have as a bookend with Father of the Folk Blues as the thing. And then I finally got my Uncle Jazz by Men I Trust. This was awesome. I was super happy about this. I really enjoy all the details of this, so we're gonna go through this step by step. One, I love the artwork for it, and I love that, you know, because I've only ever really listened to this album on streaming. I love all of the continuation of the artwork throughout it, and how, like, just the little things sort of like pop up all over the place. It's great. I really enjoy that. Two, I love the super minimalism of the disc itself. I also love just the track listing on the inside. It's great. And I also really enjoy the spines, how the right side has nothing, but the left side has the actual disc, like the name of the band and the name of the album on it, which is obviously because you're going to be putting it onto onto the CD shelf and then pulling it off, and most people are going to put it with the spine opening edge facing out. So that's really kind of cool. All of that's fantastic and amazing, but then like having this in my actual hands and being able to listen to it also helped me to understand a lot about what I've been personally doing with making music over the past little bit. And so that to me was like kind of like one of those like brain having a door kicked open in your head sort of moments, just because like in terms of the track listings, there's been a number of songs that I've written that have sort of similar names without ever intentionally being written by me to mimic the names that are found in here. So that was kind of interesting. But then also one of the things I love about it is that they have a number of sort of instrumentals that are included in here, and sometimes I make like lo-fi, you know, jazzy hip hop loops as part of just like I need to make music, but I don't really feel like writing a full song, and so I just make like a little lo-fi sample. And it's been kind of cool to like listen to this to be like, oh my god, I didn't realize how many of these track listings, or how many of the names from the track listings, first of all, have been in some way just buried into my head and then have come out in different ways. Like for example, I wrote a song called Stuck in the Mud. They have a song called Poodle of Mud on here, which to you isn't very close. Maybe it's probably not that close, but to me is actually really interesting. And oh no. Okay, and then also, you know, you get into all of the sort of instrumental breaks and stuff that are included on here, and just the idea of like how I like to make jazzy, you know, lo-fi loops as part of my music practice, if you will. And so like all of that was just really, really cool. And it was like it didn't quite hit me until I had picked this up, and I was like, oh, this is an absolute cornerstone of me making music. And so I was very, very happy when this came in. That was a really great day, and it continues to be a great day because now I own it and can listen to it whenever I want to, which is amazing. So I'm very happy about that, and yeah, not much more I can say about that other than to continue to be like, I'm super stoked about it. So that was a really fun day. What else do I got here? I also got, because the blue CDs were 2 for, I don't know, $20 or something like that. So I got Jimmy Reed, The Sun is Shining. I'm a little new to sort of Jimmy Reed, or he's new to me. I'm new to him. He is not new to me. I'm new to him. But yeah, I was not familiar with him when I picked this up, but I was just interested because of the name. Like, I have never really heard anything by him, or couldn't remember that I'd heard anything by him, and picked it up just to try it out because, yeah, as I said, it was 2 for $20, and I was actually really happy with it. And it's kind of interesting, like his story is fascinating. He was originally, I think he wanted to be with Chess Records, and he auditioned for them like at least once, maybe a couple times, but he was told that his guitar work was not up to par for what they expected at the time, and so he ended up getting picked up by a different label, and he went on to have a string of hits with that label, and turned out to become a better guitarist as he continued on his way, and so I thought that was just really kind of cool. To read about his story, but like the music's also really fantastic as well. So if you haven't heard Jimmy Reed, give him a spin. Your mileage may vary, but I really enjoyed this, and it's one that I will definitely be spinning again. But yeah, what do I like on here? High and Lonesome's pretty good. Rockin' with Reed, Little Rain is fantastic. Going to New York, Found Love, Bright Lights, Big City, The Sun is Shining, obviously, and then Odds and Ends and Odds, not Odds and Ends, Ends and Odds. These are all pretty good. So I like that. You can check it out if you want to. The other CD that I had ordered in that had yet to come in was a Sister Rosetta Tharpe CD, Gospel Train. So this started my collection of, I guess, more gospel sort of sounding stuff in my library, my personal physical media library. But this is an album that this is an actual album that she recorded, and it's really cool to sit down and listen to this because this is a really interesting blend of sort of like her electrified guitar work with more sort of traditional sounding, traditionally arranged, I guess, gospel music in the sense of like using pianos and drums and all the rest of that stuff, as opposed, and the guitar's a little more buried in it. So the stuff that really stuck out to me on here was All Alone, Up Above My Head, There's Music in the Air, I Shall Know Him, Fly Away, and I want to say 99 and a Half Won't Do. Just all the stuff where her guitar actually stands out more in the mix, or she takes time to have more of like a solo and stuff going on. And so, yeah, this is a little more, I guess, traditionally sort of gospel than what I was expecting. But it was actually really great because as an introduction to her music, it was very, very good to have an album. So that was fun, first of all. And then secondly, I later found a sort of almost a greatest hits collection. I don't think it's actually a greatest hits collection, but something approaching that. And this is Sisters Rosetta Tharpe's Down by the Riverside. And this is really cool because this includes some of the tracks from Gospel Train. However, they're done in a different manner. So they have a more rocked up sort of feel to them. They have a more like live sort of feel to them. And they include other artists that she worked with, like Marie Knight and Lucky Millinder and his orchestra. So it's been actually really cool to have these two things as a what did she sound like more in the studio, and what did she sound like potentially more like being live. And so yeah, this is fantastic as well. Things you might want to check out if you are unfamiliar with her work. Strange Things Are Happening Every Day, Rock Me are obviously two of the big ones that I would pull out. And then I would definitely say Up Above My Head, I Hear Music in the Air. Didn't It Rain is definitely one that you'll probably want to check out. And oh, it's not in here. Okay, for some reason I thought I heard it on here, but I didn't. Okay, that's fine. But yeah, those for sure are like some of her sort of bigger hits that you might want to check out. And then, or at least what I would consider her bigger hits as a new sort of listener. But yeah, everything on here was really fantastic. And this is obviously the more sort of rock and roll side of Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and puts her, you know, I guess more firmly into the category of people like, what is it? Is it? I was gonna say like Hank Williams to some extent, and any of like your blues guys. So like your Son Houses and oh god, I'm blanking. Your like Robert Johnsons and stuff in terms of like guitar work and how important that becomes. Muddy Waters is definitely of the same time period as her. Jimmy Reed and a few other people are also of that same sort of time period. Howlin' Wolf would be another good example of a person from the same time period, and they all become these precursors to what rock and roll guitar is going to sound like. So yeah, this was really cool for that as like a history lesson, but also because just to get that different side of what Sister Rosetta Tharpe sounded like outside of the studio was really, really great. So I'm very happy to have acquired all of these things. As I said, like I've been listening my way through all of them and really enjoying that. Yeah, it's been really good for in terms of like learning to play and sort of bringing together a lot of the different sides of stuff that I've been listening to, like sort of country and blues and early rock and roll, and sort of trying to bring that together into a sound. And sometimes it comes off to me as if it's approaching like the Rolling Stones, but also it's kind of like the, I guess, grungier sort of sound of like the White Stripes and stuff like that. So like I think that's the direction that I'm musically going into, but you'll just have to wait and find out for when I actually record and release some new stuff. But yeah, this has been like a huge treasure trove of like finding all of these things and being like, oh yeah, this is great. Like I'll be able to sit down and listen to this and learn stuff from it. And that's been really, really awesome to have. And I still have room on my CD shelves as it is. So like I don't have to buy a new one just yet, but we're getting to the point where I might have to. I think I have like 3 or 4 slots still available at this moment in time before I need to buy like a new shelf unit for everything. And I think for vinyl, I might have to get a new like crate to carry these things around in. But no, it's been a lot of fun to like find that stuff over the past like I guess a couple months since the last time I did one of these. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with everything that I found than I am right now. So yeah. Anyways, take care out there.